Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew: Keith Johnson.
For hate's sake, I stamp at thee.
And Veronica Dashel.
Hi.
That's not a quote from Khan.
I know, right?
It's
That's
a quote
the later
from
Khan.
me.
And welcome back, everybody.
I'm thinking of Khan going, hi. When he came out of cryo.
Right. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about Star Trek Con, the first official Star Trek dramatic podcast series. But first, we have some news. I mean, let's start off with a sad one. Ralph Sinensky died at the age of 102 years old.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. He was a phenomenal television director. He directed 6.5 episodes of the original series.
Right.
I'm just going to list them real quick. This Side of Paradise.
Good one.
Metamorphosis.
Good one.
Bread and Circuses.
Another good one.
Obsession.
One of my faves.
Return to Tomorrow.
Also good.
Is there in truth no beauty?
Deep.
And the Tholian Web, which he was fired from halfway through.
Yeah. I was reading up on that too, and they said it was one of those things where basically the episode you get is pretty much his episode. You know what I mean? As in, and because he had done so much of the work, and it wasn't even his fault. Evidently, one of the things was the uniforms, the spacesuits that they had to wear.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things was when the crew was Chekhov and Spock and the others, when they had to, and Kirk, when they had to get the actors in and out of the spacesuits, it took a really long time to do that. And as you know, when you film stuff, you don't film in the order in which it actually airs. And so it took them so long to get in and out of the spacesuits. That alone started adding to the delays. And Ralph did what he could to shoot around it. But this is when Fred Freiberger was running the series. And he was basically, you're taking too long. You got to go. Because for that guy, literally time was money. And
the budget had been cut by that point.
Yeah,
they
huge.
Didn't have as much time or money.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but all good episodes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this Side of Paradise and Metamorphosis, just his first two out of the gate, are just classics.
Absolutely.
Now, Veronica, you wanted to talk about this Star Trek Lego set.
Yeah. It looks really cool. I'm never going to get it because it will literally sit in the box and I will never take it out, like the Playmobil Enterprise that we got like 3 or 4 years ago.
Have you looked at Charles' Christmas wish list, Veronica?
My problem is that those minifigs are not to scale with the Enterprise.
Yep.
That Enterprise needs to be way bigger than that.
Yep.
But it looks like it has the saucer detaches and everything. It looks pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looks great. But it's 3,000 pieces to put that thing together.
I don't have that patience.
Right.
I want to play with them. I want it to be put together. I want to play with it, and I want to look at it, and that's all. And it stays dust free magically because the shield.
Also looked it up. It's going for $400 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a big Lego person and that's a hobby, and that's, I mean, it's going to be I would think a considerable amount of time you're going to have to sit and do Lego. That seems a decent investment to have a display piece at the end.
I mean, the Playmobil was $350, so that's not terribly far off.
Yeah.
And I feel like you'd spend more time putting the Lego set together than it would take if we actually ever finish the Playmobil.
And we have too many cats, so it would turn into Viridian 3 all over again.
It would never work.
The Enterprise crashing into the planet.
Out of curiosity, do people do anything when they make Lego models of that level? Like, I don't know, spray it with some kind of glue or something to make so you can't drop it, it blows up? I wonder.
I'm not a Lego guy.
Yeah, I haven't for years. I bet they do something like that.
I think so. I think there is like a drop of glue you put like on
Seems like cheating.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw that in the Lego movie.
Okay.
Maybe. So Veronica, Alan introduced a new segment a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Called, what is it? What have we been trekking this week? And I know you brought some show and tell.
Yes, I did. I mean, it's related to what we're talking about. So we were in Nashville this past week, and we stopped at this awesome used bookstore that we try and stop at whenever we're in Nashville or Chattanooga or wherever a McKay's bookstore is. And we found Star Trek the Eugenics Wars. So the rise, volume 1, the rise and fall of Khan, Noonien and Singh. And I was like, and we hadn't listened had we listened to the next one yet? I don't think we'd listened to the last one yet, so we'd only listened to most of it. And I was like, I'm interested to see how this will differ from the podcast.
Yeah. Well, now this book is set in the 1990s.
Okay.
So it's the story of him on Earth. Now there is a third book called Terrain in Hell that is his what happens to him on Ceti Alpha V in this universe. This book, though, it sort of ties in together a bunch of different stuff from Star Trek's 20th century, like Gary 7 and the Roswell crash and all that kind of stuff is tied into it.
Wow.
Robinson from Future Tense, basically any character that appeared in a time travel adventure in the 20th century shows up, but also real world events that were a cover for the eugenics wars that were happening behind the scenes. Good book. Greg Cox wrote the
It's a good read.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's fun.
I'm hoping I will actually read it. I'm not very good at that anymore.
Appreciate the recommendation then.
Yeah. Okay, Keith, do we have some This Week in Trek this week?
Yeah, let me run through this real fast. 2nd of November, 1967. For those who, we talk about Star Trek being fun. This is the first day of filming on a piece of the action, which is, we've said this a billion times. If you ask us, I think any one of us on any given day to name your top 10 original series episode, it floats all over the place. This is not one of my faves, but I like it. It's so much fun. A piece of the action. You got the gangster stuff. To this day, I can't figure out how Kirk, 300 years in the future, all of a sudden knows how to speak like a gangster, but you got to go with it. It's just.
I thought you didn't like the gimmick episodes, Keith.
I like funny. It's, hold on. I like funny episodes. It's Strange New Worlds, some of it I don't like.
I'm just saying, if the Strange New Worlds were gangsters, you'd be complaining. I would too. I'm not calling you out.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm going to lean back on 1 out of 10 episodes. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. I do keep asking myself, because one of the silliest scenes in all of Star Trek, and one of the ones that makes me laugh every time, is when Kirk drives the car. And my God, is that not silly?
It's fun.
But it's a great episode.
I agree with you, and I would do the same thing. If this was a Strange New Worlds episode, I'd probably be complaining about it. But since I saw it when I was 10, I love it.
Yeah, I know. Same here. Next one. We've talked a little bit about things like mental health and how people are treated in the future. Veronica, we had the episode we talked about what will still be mental health in the future and how do you cure people. And there's a whole discussion about what do you do for what you can call mental illness. Well, 1966 was an episode that addressed that. It's actually another one of my faves of the series. That was Dagger of the Mind. And Veronica, I think you know that one? That's the one where they go down to the planet that has, according to Kirk, the last 12 people in the entire known galaxy with mental illness. And it's where the evil guy grabs Kirk and puts him in a chair and shines a light on him and reprograms his mind. And it's got Helen Noel in it. It's not ringing a bell, is it?
Nope.
It's a good one though. It is. What I really like about it is it's the sort of setup is that there are no more prisons. That criminal activity is treated as if you need help and you get treatment for it. And the people who they have not been able to rehabilitate are sort of on this colony.
Jail.
Right, which is I think a more progressive setup than a lot of later Star Treks.
Yeah,
came to with prisons and so forth.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Veronica, one thing might nudge your memory is the Captain Ron Tracy, who was the captain of the episode where had the communists and the Yankees. Well, okay, it's the same actor. But Charles, I agree with you what you're saying, because I thought it was interesting. And there's a start of the episode, Spock even said, basically, you humans have celebrated violence for 6,000 years, yet you imprison those who practice it personally. And even McCoy still said it was a cage. He said a cage is a cage, Jim. And then Kirk says, no, it's not a cage. It's a treatment facility where people can get help. But the interesting thing, Veronica, about the show is they have a light. They have this neural neutralizer. It's a light, some kind of weird light. They put you in a chair and they shine it on you, and it helps calm down your violent tendencies. But it opens you to suggestiveness. So they could make you like liver if you hated liver. They could make you basically not be violent anymore by telling you over and over you're no longer violent. And that's a very dangerous and powerful weapon.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. That sounds like a terrible idea, and whoever invented that should never have invented it, because clearly did not watch any sci-fi their entire lives.
Yeah, it's a Star Trek episode, so everything goes perfectly smoothly.
Yeah. Right. Of course. Next one was Okay, well, they finally submit the draft. It's funny, on the same day that Dagger of the Mind airs, they finished the final revised draft for Arena, another classic one. And as they say, enough said. In case Elaine's listening, no spoilers, but I'm sure you've heard about this one. Now we jump forward 30 years, and this is so funny. 30 years exactly, almost. The 4th of November, 1996, one of the best retro combined shows I've ever seen. DS9's Trials and Tribulations.
Yeah.
Possibly the greatest gimmick episode ever.
I agree. I agree. It is. And still
one of the greatest
looks
episodes,
great.
period.
Yeah, and it still looks great. The way they integrated the modern cast into the old footage, the jokes, everything lands. It's a really, really good episode. It's one of my favorite ones. It has one little weird thing that I always notice, and I can't not notice. Slight spoilers for Lane if you're listening. At the end, when Cisco basically goes and says something to Kirk, the only footage they could find of Kirk in the chair is when he was looking at the captain's woman from the Mirror Universe. So the look that Shatner gives Avery Brooks looks a little more amorous than it should be for just the captain saying, "Oh, what a cool ensign." And that was the only footage they had. So it always looks a little weird to me. But
I'm sure it launched plenty of fan fiction on its own.
Absolutely. And this is interesting. Exactly 1 year after that DS9 episode, Voyager aired an episode or a series of episodes that still get talked about for what could have been, what was, and that was the Year of Hell. And it's really good. And I'm sure you know the story. Berman and company really, really wanted the Year of Hell to be a year of hell, as in the Voyager ship was decimated and the entire season was this running battle with the Krenim. And of course, the network is like, are you out of your freaking mind? That will never happen. So what they had really hoped against hope could be a year-long story was condensed into 2 episodes.
Yeah. And I agree with the sort of missed opportunity of it, but it's Voyager. They would have reset it at the end. And then they would have been resetting a year instead of a pair of episodes.
Yeah.
Even more frustrating.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was always the story of Voyager. And I know a lot of people love Voyager. I actually like Voyager. I think I mentioned one time that I really started watching Voyager and catching up during the Great Recession, and I had lost my job and all this stuff was going on, and they were airing at 3:00 in the morning here in Atlanta where I live. And they did become kind of a fan. It's not a bad show, but as you said, Chuck, they were always resetting and stuff. And I don't think that show ever truly grabbed its potential. Not truly.
But they have very good sci-fi episodes of the week.
Absolutely. And then the last one I'm going to do, and we're going to I'm just going to add this one on a funny note, back to funny episodes. It's one of my favorites. 1997, the 7th of November is the episode Who Mourns for Morn. It's another jokey episode. And Lord have mercy, is that show full of gimmicks? It's every cliched character from every murder mystery and film noir you've ever seen. There's even an alien that kind of does his hands, and for those who can't see me, he kind of talks like this. He keeps gesturing with his hands like he's a bad Italian mobster in a bad gangster movie. It's a great show.
Yeah,
and that's this week. Yeah, this week in Trek history.
All right, let's grab some comments before we move on to our topic. Irish Banshee 1974 says, "I'm looking forward to seeing Kirk look lovingly at Cisco."
Catch it. It's very end of the episode.
Matt Sweatman says, "Worf's answer to Klingons appearing different was still the perfect answer to the head ridge thing."
100%. They didn't need anything else.
He dodged it. Yeah.
Matt Sweatman also said, "One of my earliest memories of seeing the original series from before I became a fan was of Kirk sitting in the chair with the light fixture in the ceiling."
Yeah, that's a tough episode. It's a good episode too.
And on the subject of the Legos, Irish Banshee 1974 says, "I just want the minifigs, and you craggle it. Use crazy glue." That to answer your question about gluing it.
Probably.
And Matt Sweatman said, "I've never been more tempted to spend $400 for a Lego set."
Oh, wow. Yeah, I agree.
Tiger Blade 2002 said, "Hello, everyone. Now, where can I find Admiral Kirk?"
Hey, Wayne.
Oh, yeah, Wayne. Held on to that thought. I have so many about that one.
Irish Banshee said, "Hey, they revisited the Tholians in the Enterprise episode Future Tense." And then who wants to read Matt Sweatman's comment to take us into the topic?
Con!
Perfect. All right, so spoilers for Star Trek Con, all 9 episodes, because we're going to be diving into them this week. I mean, this was the first dramatic narrative podcast series that Star Trek has done officially. Obviously, fans have done them, but this is from official sources with professional actors and writers and so forth. What do we think for first like big impressions?
It was really good.
You liked it?
Yeah.
What do you think, Keith?
I did too, and I hadn't gotten around to listening to it yet until you guys told me it was really good. So I started listening to it, and I really enjoyed it. For those who are old enough, even though we call it a podcast, it felt like nothing so much as a radio play. And I grew up on radio plays. And so there was a comfort in that, like I never forget, I was listening to a radio play decades ago, and it was so funny. The guy was in jail, and he did the thing that people used to do where they take the cup and rub it against the bars, to protest. Because of the radio play, he had to go, "Where's that cup?" And then you hear the sound. And so I love podcasts and stuff like that, because every now and then they have to do little things. Like you heard the sound, like not jumping ahead. There's one time whenever you hear a sound and somebody goes, "What is that?" We call it a phaser or something like that. I just love it. I love the sound effects. And I will say some of the people were better than others, but I will say Naveem Andrews, man, oh man, that man can voice act. Boy, oh boy, was he good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, just on the subject of just doing these narrative podcasts, I think one nice thing about it is that everything sounded the way it should. They had original sound effects. When she had her phaser or computer or tricorder from the Enterprise, the original series, it sounded just like it. When you're on Sulu's ship in the post-generation Star Trek Generations era, it sounded like the movie era. There wasn't the big need that like TV shows have. They always have to be reinventing everything. And and you had Star Trek novelists writing the script for the radio play. And so it was very like canon specific, right? Which you can do, like they play it faster and looser on the live action. But on this, I thought it was fantastic. It slots right in. Now there were some changes and they took some characters in different directions, but also there were some twists I didn't see coming.
Same here.
In the storyline.
You mentioned the sound effects. I remember the sliding doors several times. The doors. I was like, that's Star Trek. And it also reminded me that I don't think it's kind of like if you try to replace Godzilla's voice, I think the original phaser sound is the best phaser sound they ever did. So hearing that was so cool.
Yeah, and when they would use the equipment that the Enterprise left behind for them, it sounded like the original series sound effects.
Right.
Which it would, right? That makes sense. Yeah. Well, what do we think of I guess the portrayal of characters? Let's start with Khan, because Naveem Andrews obviously is playing Khan. They took Khan in some different directions, sort of playing with sort of how like his humanity, right? Like we saw Khan as his original series version, and then you see Khan, the revengeance obsessed, desperate man in Wrath of Khan, and they try to sort of bridge the gap, but taking it, they sort of explore the character along the way. What do you think?
I thought it was amazing.
Okay.
I mean, I knew that something like terrible was going to have to happen to get him to where he was in the movie. So I was kind of expecting that. The way it happened, I was not expecting.
Okay. What about you, Keith?
Yeah, that was the thing that took me the most to get adjusted to. And the one thing I came away from this entire audio play thinking is, it may not have been how I wrote it, would have written it, but it wasn't bad or wrong. And it was literally a take. And I liked it because it's funny, even I, who try to be more open-minded, I kept going, man, this Khan is a little too nice. I mean, the Khan I know of would have snapped this dude's neck for stepping to him and so forth. And then I remember, it's a horrible comparison, but it's true. There's all those home movies, unfortunately, of Hitler with his girlfriend and his lover and his dog.
Right.
And I remember I tell people all the time, Klansmen love their children too. I mean, they do horrible things, then they go home and they go to church on Sunday. And so I had to remind myself that Khan in real life wouldn't be just a prowling, menacing, growling demon 24/7. And I think that I had to get adjusted to a Khan who could laugh and let somebody disagree with him. And when the first guy, I think it was Hugo, basically was about to lead a rebellion, I honestly was shocked that he didn't kill the guy, the Khan I saw. But I thought it was an interesting take on that.
Yeah, it sort of builds upon the tragic nature of Khan, that they show you like him sort of progressing and learning, becoming a little greater humanity, learning from Marla, becoming a father, before the rug's pulled out under him and he sort of goes full Khan at the end,
Yes.
But no, I thought Naveen Andrews played him very well.
Yes.
Along the way, and I thought that the dialogue was written very well. It was very believable as a sequel to Space Seed. I just thought it was very well done. That he didn't do like a Ricardo Montalban impression.
No,
but I think it felt like Khan.
Yes,
it did. He had a way of speaking kind of, you could always feel like he measured his words. Because Ricardo Montalban spoke a very measured way. And Naveen Andrews, like you said, I remember years ago when Jamie Foxx did the Ray Charles movie, and he said sometimes people don't get it. He said the hardest thing you can do is not to imitate another person. You capture their essence, but you don't imitate them. And some people, they sounded just like, they look just like, and he said that's not what you need to do. And I agree with you, because when I listen to him, it's like if you really listen, he doesn't sound like Ricardo Montalban at all, but he sounded like Khan. Like he really did sound like Khan.
All right, let's grab a couple of comments real quick. Now, Matt Sweatman says, I listened to the episodes while washing dishes in the evening.
Same here.
It actually made me look forward to the chore when the new episodes dropped.
Same here, Matt.
Irish Banshee 1974 says, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing the new episode every week. It was very much like an old radio play. My dad used to listen to those on tape during road trips.
Oh, cool.
Wow, so cool.
Matt Sweatman said, I think they actually softened the character a bit, even from Space Seed, but that's just me nitpicking.
Well, I agree, Matt. I agree. And I think that's what Charles was saying, too.
Yeah, I think so, too. I mean, and now Khan was a little more civilized. He would go to the dinner and that sort of thing in Space Seed. He wasn't the Khan of Wrath of Khan yet. But I think that they were really playing off like the impact Marla was having on him.
Yeah.
Irish Banshee 1974 says, I know that some might say it didn't make sense with the love he felt for Marla and the baby, but he's just a very passionate person which can go to every emotion.
Yep.
Yeah. Agree.
She went on to say, Naveen was spectacular as Khan. Towards the end of the series, I didn't picture him in my head anymore. I started seeing Ricardo.
Wow.
And then Tiger Blade 2002 said, wow, I missed the podcast.
Oh, no.
Well, we're going to spoil it here, Wayne.
And Wayne, you can listen to it and you will enjoy it, even if we spoil it.
Wayne,
you
might
will
enjoy it. Leave now and then go listen to the podcast and then come back and watch the rest of the episode.
But if you decide to stay here, you won't be totally crushed. I mean, you can know what's coming. It's kind of like watching Sunset Boulevard. One thing, and I agree with Matt, and that's why I said I may not have written it exactly the way they did. I might not have softened Khan quite as much as they did. But there was also a very subtle take, I think, that they've been doing. Enterprise did it as well. Khan talked a lot more about how they were programmed, basically designed to be that way. When I originally watched Space Seed in the original series, Spock said that the scientists overlook one thing: superior ability breeds superior ambition. Absolute power corrupting absolutely. So back in the day, I always assumed that Khan and his people, being 5 times stronger than humans, smarter and so forth, were simply like Julius Caesar or Napoleon. They were just more arrogant. Right. Enterprise absolutely suggests that they've been programmed also to be a little more aggressive genetically. And this show kind of hinted at that as well every now and then, as if they were also programmed to be more assertive. Like Ivan seems to have been programmed, and Khan even said, I was bred to fight, or he was made to be a warrior. So it's a very slight difference. And I think that if you know that you've been programmed to be that way, then maybe Khan would try a little harder not to be that way all the time. Not to just like snap somebody's neck. Because Ivan was like kill anybody and everybody around him who even looked at him wrong.
Right. Yeah. And in Space Seed, it was a eugenics program. It wasn't genetic engineering. But and they sort of retconned that with Wrath of Khan, where it wasn't the selective breeding anymore. But no, I thought they did a good job of sort of challenging Khan, and they really made a point several times that it was his sort of limit. He had limits in his thinking, limits in his imagination, right? Which is the same weakness Kirk exploited in Wrath of Khan with the 3-dimensional thinking, right? That he had a hard time grasping things that were outside of his sort of limited worldview. That's like Khan's weakness. And I thought they played off that several times in the story that I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
Something else they also did, and I don't know, you guys may have, I have never, ever dug into any of the histories of the eugenics wars in Khan, not the books or anything. So back to what you're saying about the violence that Khan visits upon people, which of course, again, there's no other way around it. What he did to Kirk was inexcusable in Space Seed. However, they keep talking about these wars and these battles, Tehran and this and that. And I know in the original series, Spock said, quote, these young supermen seize power around the world. But sometimes you wonder, what is the backstory? Did they feel they had a choice? Were they just used as genetically programmed soldiers and they turned against those who did this to them, and therefore they turned against humanity because they saw that's what humanity was? Doesn't make it right, but the way this was played off, it made me think a whole lot more about why Khan was the way he was, other than just the powerful guy who wants to rule everybody around him. Yeah. Very interesting there.
Well, there was that great scene in Space Seed where he said, "We brought the world order."
Yes.
And then Kirk's like, "We?"
Right. And this Khan seems a little more thoughtful than that one, but I'm just wondering, what was going on. And also I think you said something else, Charles, I thought was great. You said Khan was still locked in a certain way of thinking. One of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek is the dinner in Space Seed, where Ricardo Montalban, who could do that kind of slight scowl, that slight narrowing of his eyes, like nobody, he's just looking at Kirk. And I'll never forget that. And that was the scene where Spock was attacking him. All of a sudden he says, "You're an excellent tactician, Kirk. You let your first officer attack while you sit back and look for weakness." And Kirk says, "You have a habit of describing things in military terms." That's the Khan, you're right, that Kirk exploits. He was always looking for advantage, always. Like even when they met the aliens, he and Yvonne and Ursa, their first thought literally was, they outnumber us, therefore kill them. Like, and I was like, dude, what? Why? I mean, seriously?
Well, Matt Sweatman commented, "Ivan was not the only example of augment aggressiveness. His turning on Khan really showed how much Khan had changed in this story."
Right.
Now, before we get into the Alborians, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
For about 30 seconds. When we come back, we'll get back into Star Trek Con. So stay right there.
Cool.
So Elaine Swedman had commented, "I would love to know more about the Alborians."
Yes.
Right.
Now, this was a big twist in the story that I didn't see coming.
I didn't at all.
Yeah.
Right.
I liked it. I thought it was very good. It was sort of making Khan sort of deal with a first contact situation.
Yeah.
And a long-term situation, because they were on this planet together for a long time.
Yeah.
At least 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised. The last thing I envisioned for the story of Khan and his people was for an alien race to have landed on the planet and have spent that much time with them. That really caught me off guard.
Yeah. Well, it does explain the the Ceti Alpha 6 thing, because that was always just a random thing in Space Seed, that Ceti Alpha 6 just exploded.
Right.
Yeah. So the fact that it was caused by this spaceship that then crash landed on the planet, I think makes sense. But also it gave an unexpected nature to the story, right? With prequels, that's kind of hard,
right,
to not really know how things are going to go, right? This introduced like a really unexpected element, and I mean, really the whole time I'm wondering, how is this going to end up? Like, I know how Khan ends up, but how do the Alborians end up? How does his daughter end up? You know what I mean? Like, I think that helps with like a prequel that's just really getting you from A to B in the Star Trek story, but giving you something unexpected that with some twists and turns, and it piques the interest, I think.
Yeah, and there was a creeping sense of dread, or maybe not for them, because I guess they don't feel dread, but there was a fatality, or not a fatality, what's the word? Resignation. Because the planet didn't just explode and instantly destabilize their planet. They knew it was going to come. They had time to start preparing for it. And that kind of makes sense too, because it's going to take time for debris to come and things going to go through orbit and so forth. So they had weeks or months to try to prepare, and it just got progressively worse and worse and worse. That was kind of it. I will say I was a little surprised at how even tempered and positive Khan seemed to be throughout all this. he was always like, "Oh, we got this. We'll be okay." And then even when they were going underground, instead of kind of feeling as if he was a failure or he had led them to a horrible place, he was still being really positive about it. "Oh, we'll make it. We'll make it work under here." I was a little surprised, maybe because he had no choice but to lead his people to keep them out of despair.
Right.
I can see someone like Ivan becoming like Ivan is, because given what they were, spending the rest of your life living underground on a decimated planet would probably drive some of them crazy.
And they pointed out several times that, like, several people say to Khan, like, you promised us that we would have an empire, that we would be the, you know, lords of everything or whatever. And now we're living in this cave on a desert planet. Like, it's failure after failure.
Right. Honestly, even being stranded on that planet by Kirk with no spaceship would have driven somebody like Ivan crazy in the first place. Because again, I'm thinking, now that you know about faster than light travel and stuff, and you're sitting there, unless somebody comes by, what you're hoping is that in 100, 200 years, you're going to develop your own space technology to go out. Because somebody like Ivan's going to want to conquer. So I can't see him ever really being happy on that planet anyway. You're right, Charles. But then when they went under the caves, I was like, oh man, that's not good. But their utter dedication to him, I guess, is carrying them through, which also makes me more and more want to know the story of the augments on Earth. Because there was one thing Marla said in her tapes, her history, which I noted was actually kind of scary. She said they don't fear Khan, they love him. That's not always necessarily a good thing.
Well, what did you think of the mechanism of the tapes? Like the storytelling mechanism of the tapes?
I thought that was fascinating. I mean, obviously not everything that we're hearing is the tapes.
Right.
But I'm wondering how much was on the tapes that we didn't hear.
Yeah. I thought, especially because this is an audio thing, the tapes are a natural thing, but also considering that Marla was a historian, I think it makes sense that she would be living amongst Khan and his followers and would be keeping a record. So I think that it's a storytelling device that works very well.
Yeah, I thought it worked too. And like Veronica said, there were many times you could tell they were obviously filling in the blanks. But how many shows? There was that movie, The Perfect Storm, where the entire book and the movie is basically about those unfortunate lobstermen who died in the hurricanes. And nobody knows what they said. The entire movie is just, this is probably what happened. And it's really good. So, yeah, I was fine with that as well. I had a very slight thing, and now I know why. But when the Dr. Lear was basically the whole time saying, I need to stay here and go through the tapes myself, that didn't make sense to me, because it's like, in the future, you can feed that into a computer. And then she basically said, well, the computer won't collate. Like, we got AI right now. In the future, she could have those tapes scanned and spend all the time on the ship collating what they scanned. But it was a nice effect, because we find out why it was her attachment to that place, which now also is explained.
Yeah.
So Keith, when did you realize who she was?
I got to tell you, not until the last episode or two. I kept wondering what her deal was.
Right.
Of course, because they never mentioned that Khan had a child. Of course, I always assumed he had to. Well, of course, now we've watched Strange New World, so we know he had at least one or two. Well, the bottom line is Khan had a whole bunch of kids, let's be honest. We know this is truth, but not on the planet. Honestly, I didn't really figure it out until like maybe the penultimate episode, because I kept going, what is this lady's problem? And the way she initially, now looking back, it makes sense. Her acrimony for Kirk made no sense. And like Tuvok and Sulu said, if you know James Kirk, you know that's not the kind of man he would have been. He was.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't figure it out until late into the podcast. Give them credit.
So I realized it when Tuvok was like, "You're still hiding something." That's when I was like,
yeah, because you were asking me like when it takes place.
Yeah.
Because you were trying to work out like if the math works.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, Generations is 20 or 27 years later after Space Seed, something like that, right?
Right.
It's like the time, which is sort of very specific. I think that was a good choice for when they said it, because for one, Kirk has, as far as the universe knows, has just recently died.
Yeah.
And so obviously Sulu is going to have his hackles up if somebody starts to disparage his legacy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think that works, but also the timeline works out for her to be, a Star Trek character age. 27 to 30 is sort of
right.
Yeah.
A good age for a Star Trek character.
Yeah.
But what do we think of Marla? Because she got very recharacterized in this thing.
I thought it was great.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I know we rewatched the episode recently, but I don't. I fell
In the
asleep.
episode, Marla immediately fell in love with Khan and then betrayed the ship.
Right. Yeah, that's a thing that never makes any sense. And
Right.
Veronica, you might remember there's a scene where there's a scene where Khan even says, "Why do you wear your hair this way?" And then he calls himself restyling her hair, which is like the most utterly chauvinistic, controlling thing you've ever seen. And then there's the scene where he grabs her hand and squeezes it, and she literally falls to her knees. Yeah, they had to kind of sort of retcon her. I thought it was very interesting where she said, I am something like, I am now truly Khan's woman, as horrible as that sounds. But she kind of said, I don't mind it. And I guess in her mind, it wasn't like she was his subordinate. It was, I think she even said he's
power
mine.
now.
Kind of. Yeah. But every now and then, he still had a habit. I wouldn't want to get with somebody like that. He still have a habit every now and then. Imagine being in a marriage if somebody goes, I have spoken. If I said that to my wife, I'd wake up dead, as they said.
Right.
I have spoken.
Be the last thing you speak.
Yeah. So he still has some of that in there, Every now and then she says, he goes, enough. Like, what?
Right.
But I think
I liked the approach of her interest in Khan wasn't just because he was Ricardo Montalban and she's into him, right? But as a historian, I mean, it would be a pretty incredible opportunity to like hang out with Napoleon, right? Get it in his own words, like what happened. You know what I mean? So I liked that aspect of her, but also her sort of having to like earn her respect amongst everybody else, because they sort of viewed her as Khan's woman.
Yeah.
Also the fact that she was smart enough to bring a phaser along and sort of keep it secret in her room, like because she's going down to this planet with a bunch of genetic super people, the only normie down there. But also they introduced the idea that the augmented women cannot reproduce, but the men can, which gives sort of an additional reason why Khan might bring her along.
Yeah, he did not actively disabuse her of that notion.
Right.
When she accused him of that, he didn't say, no, baby, that's not. He never denied that. Right. He never denied that. He's like, well, hey, you're here now. I kind of like you. So that was also, I've said this many times, and I know it's one of the things people talk about with new Star Trek is that you want to be careful showing human frailties and fallacies and foibles. I've always said, show me a racist character, a homophobic character, a sexist character, because people are people, and I want you to work through it. That's what the original series was. So that little bit of shocking misogyny, how they treated the augment women, I can't say I quote unquote like it, but I think it's realistic. And it's disturbing. And I think it should be disturbing that they would do that to the women.
And they didn't really nail down like the time period they're from. We know that being a sequel to Space Seed, it would be the 1990s. Strange New Worlds has moved the eugenics wars into the mid 21st century. They never said like in 1994 we were doing this or anything like that, but it was still like you can imagine modern day Earth. That the scientists would, they still want the men to be able to reproduce, but they want to be able to control the situation, right? They don't want the augments just reproducing willy-nilly. Okay, so let's grab some comments. So Irish Banshee 1974 says, what is or isn't on the tapes reminds me of the TOS court episodes where the video footage shows everything.
You almost said toss.
She went on to say, I had an inkling in earlier episodes because of her insistence on staying on the planet to get all the information, but I wasn't sure of the dates or times. Talking about whether the scientist lady was Khan's daughter.
Right, that makes sense, because I also wondered why she had to stay on the planet instead of just literally copying the tapes and getting out of there.
Yeah. Matt Swetman said, I like the twist being hinted at even earlier when they mentioned Delmonda had somehow made it off Ceti Alpha V, implying that Khan's daughter could have also made it off.
Yeah, but at that time, Khan didn't have a potential daughter also.
Yeah, true. But I like the idea because like it's sort of in the story of Space Seed that Khan escaped Earth with his 75 augments, right? And then so here again, he's about to escape again and abandon everybody. Like, you imagine, like, he had followers on Earth. He controlled a fourth of the planet. He left everybody behind when things went bad, right? Like Gul Dukat said, like, he saw which way the wind was blowing, or I guess like Cisco said about Dukat, he saw which way the wind was blowing, right? And he got off the planet. And he was about to do it again in this episode and just leave all of his people behind. But I like that he made that different choice, right? Like he was all set up to just sort of, as his nature is, take his daughter and get the F out, right? Like he wasn't planning on coming back, but he got sort of shamed into it and stayed behind with his people.
Yeah, I thought, to go and to speak in these terms, that was not a manly thing to do, to leave your people behind. But Charles, you just pointed out something. Again, one of my favorite scenes in all of the Star Trek franchise. As you said, at that dinner party, Kirk attacks him and says, "You fled. Why? Were you afraid?" Because he's like, "You left." Kirk wouldn't have done that. Let's be honest. Picard wouldn't have done that. And so that was, that was kind of a punk move, to be honest. And I was surprised when he decided he was going to leave. But you're right, Marla shamed him on that tape where she said basically he's a coward. I thought that was very interesting that they said that.
And I like that over the course of the 9 episodes, like they're sort of breaking down his barriers. He's becoming a little bit more human. They're challenging him. He's sort of overcoming the challenges. Like, he's almost going to kill Dalmonda, and then he doesn't. His daughter sort of reaches a little more humanity in him until he thinks his daughter's died and flies off the handle and smashes the radio. And then he's, vengeance Khan from there on out. And she even points out later, like, if he'd have waited 5 minutes, he'd have found out she was alive. You know what I mean? Like, it's like him wrestling the whole 9 episodes to overcome his nature, overcome the negative aspects of his nature. And you think, like, you have some, like, even knowing the story, you feel like, wow, he's really like progressing over the course of this thing. But ultimately, like, he succumbs to it. I just thought that was really well done.
Yeah, and I kind of very slightly missed it. Why did his daughter ultimately not bring people back to the planet?
So Dalmonda and the other Elborian died.
Right.
And then so the augment that had taken her, she just changed their names and wasn't going back.
I wonder why she didn't. I
think that same reason Khan wasn't going to go back. Like she's out for herself. She wasn't sticking her neck out for them. And just like forget about them and move on.
Mattered to her at that point.
Yeah.
Wow, that kind of sucks. Yeah. But then, of course, back to your point, what would you do with them? Like in the original series, which shows how good this is because it makes me refer to it. I remember at the end when Kirk was doing the voiceover, he said, "Khan and his people, what a waste to put them in a rehabilitation facility," because Kirk himself, like they said, Kirk, Scotty, and McCoy admired Khan as much as they also didn't trust and they feared him. So Kirk wouldn't want someone like that to waste away. But what would you do with them, though? Maybe send them to the Klingon Empire? I don't know. Right. They don't belong in the Federation.
But also, Khan was very dead set that we cannot trust the Federation.
Yeah.
Do not go to the Federation. And that was where they ended up, was the Federation, right? So
that's almost the only option.
Yeah, like
sure.
So it was, again, that limited thinking, that narrow, like, he decided this is the way things are, and that's the way they are. But I mean, if Khan had gotten off with his daughter, he wouldn't have gone back either.
Yeah, that was a little unfortunate. That was hate to hear that. So I wonder, that made me think, because at this time, Leon is alive.
Presumably, we don't know her fate on Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, so
Strange New Worlds, as of right now, is about 5 episodes. I mean, about 5 years before Space Seed. But we don't know that she survives the Strange New Worlds.
Good point. So that means that Khan's immediate daughter, who in a way is almost a time traveler, because he slept for 300 years basically now. So Khan's immediate daughter and his descendant were alive at the same time. And what I found very interesting is the way that this show played it off is she has been taught to hide her identity, but Strange New Worlds has, again, we've talked about this. We got somebody carrying Khan's name, like they go to school. What's your name, Khan or Noonien Singh? Right. It just does. So it's just kind of weird that the choice is made. Although I get why.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like for La'an, Khan is a historical figure.
Yeah.
Right. So, but as of Space Seed, like Khan is back. So I can see why, she would change it, especially after Wrath of Khan, where he came back and tried to get vengeance on Kirk and died and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I thought one of the things I think one thing I did come away with, I think Khan was a little softer, a little more gentle, and a little more understanding than I would have painted him. But again, that's not a bad thing. And I think where mostly is when they basically realized they were going to lose the surface and they went into the caves. He didn't show any of the despair, and it might be because they didn't have time. He didn't really have a lot of the, like, there's an episode of Voyager, I think it's called Night. I think that's the one. The one where Janeway is forced to kind of face the choices she made that got them into the Delta Quadrant in the first place. And everybody who does something like that, it's going to come at you. You never really saw Khan become either introspective or lose hope. Maybe, again, he can't. So I probably would have written a little bit more of that, because, again, going underground, to me, that was the failure. I think, not that it was his fault, but that was the failure. Because, again, you can't conquer Earth. Maybe you're going to conquer this new planet. Now you're going to be stuck in a cave. And then at one point they even said, look, even Ivan said, we're probably going to die here. We're the last of the augments. So basically, what was this all for?
Right.
I think a rebellion was almost inevitable, honestly.
Yeah. Especially because, like you said, like, the superior ability breeds superior ambition. There's going to be guys jockeying for Khan's spot. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got a great platform there that no, he promised us the universe, and now we're living in this crappy cave. Like,
exactly.
We got to keep following this guy.
Yeah. That would be a real tough one to do. I also thought it was interesting. Again, it's the stuff you don't think about. You got augments who are astronomers and doctors and poets. But then why wouldn't they be? That's the thing. You see people painted a certain way, but they would still do all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they all fight. And that's the other thing. I wonder, can you assume, or as presented in Space Seed and in the Wrath of Khan, all the augments were just like ready to kill you at the drop of a hat? Can you assume they would all be that way? And this show seems to say no, because they weren't all like that.
Right. And now, one thing this show did was they sort of explained why all of Khan's followers in Wrath of Khan were like 25 years old and blonde hair, blue eyed, and he had adult followers in Space Seed, right? And so the 15 years in between doesn't really explain how he's got these, but they explained in Space Seed, or in this, that they had liberated a bunch of kids from an augment facility before they left Earth, and so they had these children with them. And then you get the confusing Joaquin and Joachim.
Right.
And then they're going to name somebody else Joachim. I was like, enough with the Joachims. Right?
It's like listening to Tolkien or something.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're right. They did their best, because when you see the Wrath of Khan, your first thing is, why is everybody blonde and like 20 years old? It never made any sense. And I just think, I don't know what happened there. But you're right, they try. Also, again, I thought they said something very interesting. I think it was the Dr. Ursula or whoever says something like, basically, Khan and all the augment men took a whole bunch of women to their beds, which of course they would. And now we find out, so, I've read the history things. I think, it's that thing they say, like, a huge percentage of the human race is descended from some Irish king, and then from the Khans, Genghis Khan, whatever. So, I wonder how many people actually would be descended from those augment men, especially because Khan alone ruled a quarter of the earth. And Lord knows Ivan, he's probably got some kids running around.
Right.
We saw.
Yeah, if I ruled a quarter of the earth and looked like Ricardo Montalban, there'd be lots of little me's out there.
But Veronica, you'd be his number one woman.
We'll see.
Oh, God.
Let's grab a comment from Elaine Sweatman that says, I thought that Delmondo was voiced by Brent Spiner at first, but he's voiced by Ali Hazkivi.
I don't know who that is. He did a good job.
Yeah,
I liked
a lot.
Yeah, I liked the aliens. And I liked that they weren't like physically, they couldn't have competed with Khan's people physically, but they have alien telepathic powers that, and I like, you should have referenced it earlier, Keith, but like they saw these aliens land, and it's like, all right, let's kill them, because immediately to them that's a threat. And then the aliens would have displayed their powers, and it was just like, oh wow, we can't. But then Khan had to wrestle with like, why are they being nice to us? This makes no sense in my worldview.
Yes.
You hear him throughout the show sort of trying to figure this question out. Like, why are they helping us? Why are they being nice to us? Why are because it's so antithetical to how he sees the world.
And again, you don't make Khan sympathetic, but you understand them a little more because they just said enough stuff to make it again seem like it's not just that they just woke up one day and took power, even though maybe they did. It sounds like how they were raised and the people who created them were cruel and used them as weapons. And so you're right. That's how they see the world. You don't trust anybody. Of course, then they took it on the other side because I think Khan, if he had a chance to come back and rule Earth again, it's not like he learned that lesson. So you can't. I was a little not surprised, but I was a little I don't even know if I should say disappointed. But when he told Delmondo, basically, I was planning this the whole time. It's like, well, and Delmondo is like you said, Charles. Delmondo's like, that's the only way you can think. I'm paraphrasing. That's the only way you can think.
Right?
Seriously, how sad is this?
Yeah, but I think it's perfectly in character for Khan. You know, that was sort of his tragic flaw at the end, that he couldn't let go of this idea of vengeance against Kirk. To the point that like he'll kill himself to get it, but also like, you know, all Kirk had to do was operate 3-dimensionally, and Khan couldn't keep up with him. You know what I mean? Like he, for all of his, like he thinks he's the superior being, but he has some tragic flaws.
I thought that was right too, and that also points out that was the whole thing. And they always say is because they were stronger, faster, smarter than we are. That doesn't make them better.
Right.
And and again, go back to the original series. I'll never forget the scene where Kirk is first talking to Ricardo or Khan, and Khan says, Kirk, although your abilities intrigue me, I'll never forget. He goes, you are quite honestly inferior, mentally, physically. And he doesn't even say it with malice. He just says it as fact. You're inferior. And then he gets outsmarted by Kirk. So that's gotta suck.
Yeah. So I mean, what do we think overall? Like, what's the verdict on this thing? This is the first dramatic podcast, like narrative podcast series they've done. Do you think they should do more?
Yes,
absolutely. I listen to a ton of podcasts and stuff anyway. Like Matt says, I listen to a lot of stuff while I do chores, wash clothes, and cook and stuff, and work out. And so that's what I did with this one, and it was really good. And you makes you focus. So I thought that was really good. I thought it was also real interesting with the doctor Ursula.
I don't think she was the doctor. I think Ursula was the
medic
spouse.
Yeah, but she was the one that was doing all the operating on the people. I found it interesting how she was almost as bad toward Marla as Ivan was, but she was an interesting person because she actually agreed with Ivan a lot of the ways, but she wasn't as just straight up brutal. Because remember when she knew he was going to try to kill Khan, she basically was like, well, I ain't going to help you, but I ain't going to stop you. And then Ivan was so...
No, that was the other one. Wasn't Ursula the one that was on the ship with Callie?
No, Ursula was the doctor. It was, I got the names wrong. Ursula was the one who was the doctor who was let Ivan go.
Okay.
But I found it interesting. She was very interesting because they didn't have time to really go into all the arguments deeply, but I found her character interesting. She wasn't as aggressive as Ivan, but she also wasn't just I'm just going to follow you, Khan, and do what you want. And I like that when she was like, well, Ivan, I'm not going to follow you, but let's see what happens. I thought that was she was an interesting character.
Yeah. And like, I don't know how the ad revenue, like, I don't know how successful this was financially, but from a creative perspective, I think this is maybe the most creatively successful thing they've done in this era of Star Trek as far as consistency goes, where I mean, just from start to end, I think they just maintained and told a very good story, and it felt very Star Trek, and it sort of built out the Star Trek universe a little bit, and then it ended when it needed to end, and that was it. I mean, really though, I could have listened to a few more seasons of this. Like, I could have listened to more years, because there was a sort of a 5-year jump at the end,
right?
And so you sort of skip quite a bit of stuff, but I thought that they could have fleshed this out even further. But I thought it was very good. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, you could tell, and there's no other way around it. You could tell that Tim Russ is older because his voice just sounded older than the young.
And George Takei as well.
Yeah, and George Takei as well. I thought that was good. And George Takei, of course, he just has the way of speaking that always commands. It just does.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good.
Yeah. But really, I mean, I was really glad this was good, because we've had, just this year, we've had Section 31, Season 3 of Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Scouts. Like,
God, forgot about the Star Trek.
I need something good. So thank you guys, for making something good. I really appreciated it.
And speaking of what you were saying, Charles, it was funny because I think the beginning and end of every episode, there was a really long list of people involved with the thing. They were talking about the writers, producers. Wasn't it Myers and
all the new era of Star Trek has about 25 executive producers.
Yeah, Trevor Roth, Rod Roddenberry, Kristen Beyer, Alex Kurtzman, on and on and on. So I thought that was good. But I thought it was, I agree with you. I thought it was really well done and engaged me. And as Matt said, and a couple of folks said, every episode made me want to listen to the next. It was also a quick listen. It didn't drag.
Yeah. So Irish Banshee 1974 says, I would love for them to do more. And then went on to say Mado was on the shuttle with Callie.
Okay, I was getting Mado and Ursula backwards.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, Ursula was the one who stayed behind. And she was also awfully, and again, I guess it makes sense because remember the one guy was half augment and he was Joaquin. What is it, Charles? What's his name?
Joaquin and Joaquin.
Yeah, Joaquin died and Joaquin was his son.
Yeah, he was the one from Star Trek 2.
In their horrible words, he was a mongrel because he was half human and half augment. But then Marla was fully human, and so boy was she getting it. Because Ursula treated her like crap at first. And what Ivan talked about her, I think Ivan's the kind of guy who you didn't want to lead under any circumstances. Because at the end, when they were at the ship, Ursula said something. He literally said to Ursula, "I didn't give you leave to speak." So yeah, that dude would need a knife in him real fast.
I say that a lot. I'm just kidding.
It's true.
No, I can't feed myself right now. I have a broken foot, so I'm being very nice. I'm on best behavior.
On his best behavior.
All right. That's great.
Well, Keith, where can people find more of you?
You can find me on Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups.
And how about us, Veronica?
Feltnerdy.com.
That's right. And if you're in the Atlanta area this weekend, the plan as of right now is to be at the Halloween Puck and Puppet show at the Center for Puppetry Arts. We're figuring it out because the routine we had planned to do, I'm going to need 2 feet for. So we're figuring out if we can still do it, or if we can do something else, or if we have to pass. We don't know. The weekend of the 14th, 15th, to 16th, that weekend, we're going to be at Conjuration here in Atlanta, performing a couple of family-friendly shows. So please come out to see that. You can also see us on December the 4th for an adult show at the Red Light Cafe for Jesus's birthday party. And so we're going to be performing at Jesus's birthday party. Everybody come out and see us for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And that's the sort of the next month we've got going on. And where else people find us?
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
Yep, which we have rejiggered now into more of an emphasis on our live YouTube show. So look up the Monkeying Around podcast on YouTube this Sunday at I think 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be we'll have Glenn Gretland, the head of 7A Records, will be joining us to talk about his latest Davy Jones reissue that's coming out soon. So join us on the Monkeying Around show for that. We're having a lot of fun with that. There's a puppet at the beginning. Like we're going nuts with it.
Yeah.
And Veronica, do you have a closing for us this week?
Con!
Good job. All right. Bye, everybody. Join us Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, or after the fact on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks all.